also April Fool's Day. And Josh did not know that. So I told him. I suggested he think about playing tricks on his parents later.
We also did not wear green on St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh,
You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, we actually haven't, it wasn't on, it was the day before that was St. Patrick's Day. Anyways, so we are a church. We are a church in the same sense as other churches in town and around the state and around the world. We just have a different religious orientation. Instead of supposing, for example, that everything has been manufactured by a deity or deity for some purpose that we have to trust is one that we would like if only we knew what it was, we have doubts about all those kinds of things. And we're content to accept the findings of science about how we in the universe got here and to suppose that we're free to find or create for ourselves what purpose we may. So many of us, for example, have a purpose of finding out as much about the world and our place in it as we can, or to explore what makes us tick and other people too, and why? Because it feels good, or we do it because it feels good. Some of us may have the purpose of creating such knowledge, or making up pleasing fictions. My daughter just loves to make up stories, or people make up objects of art or musical compositions that please us or perhaps others, both now and for the indefinite future. It's Rachmaninoff's birthday today too. David looked up and found that he was maybe an agnostic, hard to say. We may have a purpose of giving life to our offspring and finding joy in their discovering themselves and the world. Or helping to give life to or alleviate the sufferings of others, even people we don't know or may never know through many means. We can have more than one of these purposes, we can create new purposes, we can move from one purpose to another, and we can return to purposes that we have left off of. So that's a great way to be, to advance. Might there be super powerful extraterrestrials? Might some beings have deliberately created and guided the evolution of life on Earth? Might there be more to reality than we can know of with our normal senses? Might beings or phenomena beyond our normal experience kind of break through to us on rare occasions, you know, in a haunted house or something? Or might everything we experience just be kind of a dream dreamt by our real selves in such a parallel dimension? You know, we're just kind of a little four-dimensional, three-dimensional fragment of a larger being that we really are. I mean, lots of things could be. There's probably no end to what we could imagine could be. But as freethinkers, we accept our limitations. We agree with the 18th century Scottish philosopher David Hume, who said, and this is just a great thing, I'm constantly pulling this out with correspondents who want to try to convince me of things that they're thought up in their armchair. If we reason a priori, anything may appear able to produce anything. The falling of a pebble may, for aught we know, extinguish the sun, or the wish of a man control the planets in their orbits. It's only experience which teaches us the nature and bounds of cause and effect, and enables us to infer the existence of one object from that another. So once we get away from sensation, as Thomas Jefferson said, all is in the wind. There is, of course, a term for ideas that do not correspond to reality. There's a term for claims that are, however interesting and even captivating, nevertheless counterfactual and even implausible to the point of irrationality. That term is fiction. To the extent that fiction can be made to seem, to some degree, semi-plausible, at least in principle, there's the term science fiction. We all love this stuff, right? Or fantasy fiction otherwise. Is there anything wrong with such ideas? Certainly not. And there's nothing wrong with ideas such as gods, devils, heaven and hell, reincarnation, and so on either. It's only wrong not to keep in mind that these and other ideas are fictions. They're a kind of experimentation of thought and exercise of the imagination for which we ourselves are responsible. People abuse that responsibility when they lose sight of this and begin to think that the falling of pebbles and even people's thoughts ought to be strictly regulated in order to keep the sun shining and the planets orbiting about it. Here's one way of summarizing our religious orientation as freethinkers: working to understand and live by the rule of reason, enjoying fellowship with each other and sharing our rational outlook, learning from each other, serving something larger than our own egos, caring and helping others through life's passages or are hurting. There are just some things you just can't do at home, reading a book or being by yourself. And finally, demonstrating that the rule of reason and the love for this one life we know is sufficient. And of course, we're terribly grateful to others who have been demonstrating this as well. Some announcements. Our next month's service is on May 6th. We're going to meet right here at the Sheridan again, and we're going to talk about something we've talked about before, and that is, what is religion really? Because we all go about using that term, usually pejoratively. It's not a good thing to us. But sometimes we're using that term to refer to other things like dogmas and doctrines, not necessarily your next door neighbor's religion, but certain kinds of religions. We've had a new website for the past couple of months or so. Go to churchoffreethought.org, click on discuss, and then forums, and sign up and start posting. There's some jokes there. Give us some additional jokes. Let us know what you think about things that are happening in the world or in your life. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, atheistnexus.org, and of course we're having lunch today afterwards. I want to thank again all of our volunteers, especially those of you who stay and get things packed up so I can get over to lunch with the rest of you. And we always have a need for volunteers, so please let me know if you're available to do anything, and I'm sure we can find something, not hard. All right, so month start update. You know how they have weekend update, so can't do this every Saturday, but first Sunday of each month, and Sarah Nail's going to give us a month start update about the 2012 Reason Rally. Sarah and Rusty are, come on up, or whichever. Sarah and Rusty are our webmasters, by the way. If you like the website, it's their doing.
You don't like it, blows them.
Yeah. You'll like it.
I'm not as good as him, so I've got a piece of paper that I'm going to try not to read off of like this. Right, so, because it's going to be bigger than what you see up there. On March 24th, there was a large group of atheists, agnostics, secular humanists, and other like-minded freethinkers that got together in Washington, D.C. for the Reason Rally. The intent of the get-together was to voice opinions that, hey, we're a lot of us, and we need to be represented equally. Approximately 20,000 people showed up to hear famous freethinkers speak, to enjoy secular music, visit supporting vendors, and of course to enjoy the company of others that are free from religion. Speakers included Sir Richard Dawkins, Eddie Izzard, Paul Provenza, Adam Savage, Greta Christina, and Senator Tom Bergen. Several other folks sent in videos, such as Penn Jillette, Bill Maher, and U.S. Representative Pete Stark. Music bands played, such as Bad Religion and Tim Minchin, and other performers sharing the stage. There's a long list, I'm not going to go through it all. Many were surprised at the event to learn that Fred Phelps, that's the head of the Westboro Baptist Church, you know, the one that's famous for the anti-gay, showing up at funerals, all that. He has an atheist son named Nate, and Nate drew a huge applause for denouncing the fundamentalist faith of his family. So I thought that was very interesting. Some families showed up to the event with their children. Hey, come on in. While other young adults got the word out to their families by holding up signs that said, "Hi, Mom, I'm an atheist." Okay, so commentary online about the event was mixed. Those on the side of reason wrote their support of the event and highlights that would resonate with other freethinkers. From the Washington Post on faith section, one columnist on the side of faith wrote, "These people had every right to rally and speak about their faith and know God, but what should have shocked the media was their open hostility to the people of faith. We've been repeatedly told by the secular left that it's those crazy right-wing religious zealots who are intolerant of any ideas and expressions save their own. But the signs at the atheist rally told a different story. Some are not fit for what would be called family newspaper, but others were said things like, 'So many Christians, so few lions,' and other signs and songs were blasphemous to the extreme." He continues with, "My question is, if they believe God does not exist, why are they so angry?" I thought that was a very good observation. He's right that a lot of freethinkers are angry. Perhaps that faith is forced upon the Americans. Perhaps they're angry that religion let them down at some time in the past. Or perhaps they're angry that it's still so taboo to be free from religion. Same columnist continued to say that these people are lost without God and thus without hope. And if they reject him, then he has made another road for them to travel, and it's their choice. I don't know about you guys, but I am without God, and I believe all of us in here are also without a God. but not without hope. See, I think that's where the writer missed his mark. I have hope that free thinkers will get louder. I have hope that we'll be more known, that there'll be a voice in this country, and I have hope that atheism will someday be just as acceptable as Mormonism. A different newspaper columnist said that he was disappointed to read that Richard Dawkins told a group of 20,000 people to show contempt for, to mock and confront religion at the Reason Rally. Making fun of some Catholic and evangelical and even Muslim beliefs is easy, but then what? How does that make one's position more understandable or acceptable to others? Yeah? Okay, I can agree with that. Richard Dawkins was also quoted as saying, "I don't despise religious people, I despise what they stand for." Personally, I'm very glad to see that we had so many people get out at the Reason Rally, to see free thinkers in public and rallying together. And I agree that we should not despise religious people. We're better than that. I believe that we should reject the views that conflict with ours and be able to express ourselves maturely, reasonably, and forthrightly. And I just believe that the more understandable and acceptable our views are, and it can be to others, the more likely that they will be to listen to us and even consider what we have to say.
I saw a bumper sticker the other day out there.
Yes.
The man created God. That's all it said.
That's all it said, man created God.
Created God.
Great bumper sticker. Well, my hope is that we will turn religion more in the direction of science. I think if you look back over the last 2,000 years, it has been going that way, but it's time to start making some quantum leaps, the same as we have with science and technology. We can certainly do better when it comes to these religious ideas, but of course, before you can have astronomy, you have to kind of get rid of astrology. Here's a regular feature we've been doing. Oh, well, first of all, we got some music. I forgot about that. And he sent that tape in the Reason Rally. So, let's see if I can toggle where I need to be. There's one bad word in here, but it's really quick and it's kind of quiet.
While I do that, anyone make it to see Tim mention, what was it, back in October? Anyone? So like with the interview, oh, it was fantastic. I hope it comes back again. The Dallas audience was just super.
Well, I'm not seeing how to get the volume turned up.
No?
Tech support? Any idea how to make that louder? Anyway, he's Australian, and you know, the way he talks, that's the way they all talk down there, so. Oh, there's another volume down there. It's just there. There was just another slider down there. How do we get back to that? I'll put it on there. Just down at the bottom. There was one that toolbar went away. Whatever you did for just a second there.
cord, because I got one on that would connect from your laptop to the thing there. My old Boy Scout days, I'm here.
Anyone that show this song, if anyone feels that religion and faith and morality and all that sort of stuff is not really appropriate material for a weekend of comedy. Life is like an ocean voyage, and our bodies are the ships, and without a moral compass, we would all be cast adrift. So to keep us on our bearings, the Lord gave us a gift. And like most gifts you get, it was a book. I only read one book, but it's a good book, don't you know? I act the way I act because the book tells me so. If I want to know how to be good, it's to the good book that I go. Because the good book is a book and it is good. It's a book. I know the good book's good because the good book says it's good. I know the good book knows it's good because a really good book would. You wouldn't cook without a cookbook, and I think it's under.
All right.
For anyone that, I'm sure there's some, if anyone feels that religion and faith and morality and all that sort of stuff is not really appropriate material for a weekend at the comedy, I just need 5 more minutes. Life is like an ocean voyage, and our bodies are the ships, and without a moral compass we would all be cast adrift. So to keep us on our bearings, the Lord gave us a gift, and like most gifts you get, it was a book. I only read one book, but it's a good book, don't you know? I act the way I act because the good book tells me so. If I want to know how to be good, it's to the good book that I go. Because the good book is a book and it is good and it's a book. I know the good book's good because the good book says it's good. I know the good book knows it's good because a really good book would. You wouldn't cook without a cookbook, and I think it's understood. You can't be good without a good book because it's good and it's a book and it is good for cooking. I tried to read some other books, but I soon give up on that. The paragraphs ain't numbered and they complicate the facts. I can't read Harry Potter cause they're worshipping false gods and that. The Dumbledore's a poofter, and that's bad cause it's not good. Morality is written there in simple white and black. I feel sorry for you heathens, got to think about all that. Good is good and evil's bad, and goat's good and pig's a crap. You'll find which one is which in the good book, cause it's a book and it's a book and it is good. I had a cat, she gave birth to a litter. The kittens were adorable and they made my family laugh. But as they grew they started misbehaving, so I drowned the little fuckers in the bath. When the creatures in your care start being menaces, the answers can be found right there in Genesis. Chapter 6, verse 5, 7, swing your partner by the hand, have a baby if you can. But if the voices in your head say to sacrifice your kid to satiate your loving God's fetish for a dead baby, blind and simple faith the book demands. So raise that knife up in your hands. Before the good book made us good, there was no good way to know if the thing was good or not that good. I kind of touch and go. So God decided he'd give writing allegoric prose a go, and so he wrote a book, and it was generally well received. The Telegraph said this god is reminiscent of the Norse. The Times said kind of turgid, but I like the bit with horses. The Mail said lots of massacres, a violent to a divorce. If you only read one book this year, then this one is a book, and it is good, and it's a book. Swing your daughter by the hand, but if she gets raped by a man and refuses then to marry him, stone her to death. eyes and block your ears to the accumulated knowledge of the last 2,000 years, then morally, guess what? You're off the hook. Antichrist, you only have to read one book. Just because the book's contents were written generations hence by hairy desert-dwelling gents squatting in their dusty tents. Just because what heaven said was said before they leavened bread. Just as Jesus couldn't read doesn't mean now we should lead and manipulate human genes to alleviate pain or fight disease. When deciding whether it's wrong or right, to help the dying let go of life or to stop pregnancy when it's just a tiny blastocyst. There's no reason why we should take a look at any other book but the good book, 'cause it's good and it's a book, and it's a book, and it's quite good. Good is good and evil is bad, and kids get killed when God gets mad. You better take a good look at the good book.
Pretty good, huh? I like that whole Jack Sparrow look he's got going too. Okay. Well, as most of you know, we at this church often observe a moment of science. We just can't stand silence. It bugs us, so we have a moment of science. And the one we have today is a little unusual. I think maybe something you haven't heard of before. Let's get back to the thing here. Oh gosh. Guess I have to get it off of here. As you can see, we got other things we can do too.
This recently discovered colony of penguins is unlike any other. They don't need to huddle together every winter for protection against the bitter cold, because these little fellas can do something no other penguins can. Isn't that amazing? How do they use this incredible ability? Well, they fly thousands of miles to the rainforests of South America, where they spend the winter basking in the tropical sun.
Well, we always have a lesson that goes with a moment of science too, you know, something that applies to your life. And today's lesson is April Fool. This is something the BBC did in 2008 for April Fools. They've actually been doing things since the 1950s or something. But it just shows, you know, how special effects not only make it easier to pull off interesting hoaxes, but probably make it easier for people to believe in these weird conspiracy theories and things that we're always hearing about as well. So this has been a moment of science. And next, we have a couple more videos that David Burgess is going to set us up for.
Oh.
Were you going to come talk about that, or?
Well, I mean, it's Mr. Deity is a series that's been going on for about 3 years. It's, you know, Mr. Deity is, God is essentially a CEO, and he's got his assistant Larry, which I think they've kind of decided that maybe he's the Holy Ghost. They have Jesus on there. He's this guy named Jesse. And Lucifer is a woman named Lucy. And
Who I think is played by his wife.
yeah, actually that's true. Brian Dalton is the guy who does this. And anyway, this is one of the first ones. So it's turn it down.
So what do you,
Do you hear that? Is it supposed to sound like this?
Mr. Deity, I think it sounds great.
Larry, the whole thing is a train wreck. It's
Sir, you're being a perfectionist.
well, yeah.
You had 6 days for this project.
Actually, I had 7, but there's no way I'm coming in tomorrow now. I'm so depressed.
Okay, well then, we really should wrap up the whole evil thing. Sir, Mr. Deity, what you're allowing, what you're not allowing?
Okay, where were we?
Well, we last left off, we had decided, well, actually you had decided, sir, that you weren't going to allow people to harm each other with merely their
There's
thoughts.
thoughts. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Right, next up, kind of a biggie, holocausts.
Yeah, I'm gonna allow it.
Okay, holocausts in. Next up, torture. Broad brush here, you got men, women, children, animals.
Babies?
Babies, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it in.
Okay, torture's in. Sir, you are all powerful, right?
What is that? What is that
I mean, I was just thinking, because the list, it was just, the list, because the list, well, okay, moving down the list, sir, Down syndrome.
Down, what is it again?
It's a birth defect, causes a mental retardation, has the certain morphological consequence.
Oh, yeah, it's awful. It's so sad.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's leave it in.
okay. Down syndrome, in. Well, the next one, I checked with the boys down in research on this, said we're safe to leave it out.
What is it?
It's that natural disaster complement, the earthquakes, floods, tsunamis.
Yeah, I need to have that in.
Well, sir, I actually spoke with the head of R&D myself on this one. Sir, I spoke with the head of R&D,
Yeah.
okay? He said if we leave this out, it's not gonna affect anybody's free will or
Natural law,
violate,
right.
yeah, natural law or anything like that. And since you're way over quota on the gratuitous pain and
Yeah.
suffering,
Here's the thing, if we take it out, it's gonna be way too easy for people to believe in me.
no, sir, let me go over the list. Holocausts, torture, and Down syndrome. Those 3 alone make it kind of hard to believe in you.
No, I don't think so.
Sir, really, if you have the natural disasters, you got earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, you throw in a hard winter or 2, no one's going to believe in you.
Sure they will.
Sir, I really don't think they will.
For how much? I'll bet you a C note and I'll make you Archangel if I'm wrong.
But sir, I don't want to wager with you.
Yeah, because you know you're wrong.
No, because I know you're the God of the universe, the all-knowing God. You can see the future. All is present with you.
Okay, that's a good point, that's fair. 10 to 1?
Sir, please don't insult my intelligence.
100 to 1?
You're on.
Okay, so is that it? Can we go or is...
No, not even close. Conjoined twins.
Jeez, we're gonna be here all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe it.
Okay, conjoined twins. Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, leave it in.
Okay, leave it in.
Oh, but wait for Lou.
Wait for Lou, makes sense. I assume you have no problem with childhood cancer.
No.
Celine Dion.
By the way, just a quick addendum that the Mr. Deity project it gets some money from YouTube, but they also rely on a contribution. So if anyone wants to feel generous and help them out a little bit.
And then this next one is about how the plan is unfolding. They're getting up to New Testament times, is that right? And how many of you heard that lots of cultures had myths about dying gods who come back to life? And y'all know this. And so this deals a little bit with that.
Previously on Mr. Deity. So if the wages of sin isn't death, then there's no reason for my crucifixion.
Yeah, technically there's no theological necessity for it.
You know what? I'm done.
All right, let's not get crazy here, okay? You can't quit because you have a contract.
Yeah, a contract with a morals clause, and this whole thing is a violation. I am washing my hands of this entire thing. I'm out of here. I quit. And you know, Larry was right. You are one sick puppy.
And now the conclusion of Mr. Deity and the Quitter.
No.
Sir.
No. EMP, you know what, Pat, I don't have time time to play 20 questions with you, okay? I'm a busy guy. Hold on one second. Boy.
Is that Robertson again?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, he's been bugging me for the better part of a week, but the truth is, I see Pat on the caller ID, and I think it's Julia Sweeney because of the Pat character, And last time we talked, I had to let her go. I never called her back. I felt guilty, so I picked up.
Well, say goodbye to Pat. We found Jesus.
We found Jesus?
Like Chuck Colson at Maxwell Federal Prison.
That's awesome. Hold on. Hey, Pat. Listen, I gotta run, but you know what? You gotta tell your people to lay off the crazy stuff. I mean, kid janitors and the dangers of contraception and putting troops back in Iraq, really? I mean, they have got to lay off this stuff or no one's ever gonna take them seriously again. And by the way, that's not my judgment, okay? They're bringing that on themselves. By the way, don't forget to Google Santorum. I think you're gonna get a kick out of that. Okay, bye. So where is he?
Well, it's not just a matter of where, sir, it's when. He's traveling both geographically and through time. He's been in Egypt, Greece, Asia Minor, and Rome.
Rome? Okay. Well, I bet they had a good time with it, right?
Well, it's not like that at all, sir. He's actually using aliases wherever he goes. He was Osiris in Egypt, Dion or Dion in Greece.
Well, what is he doing?
Well, you're not gonna like this, but he's sharing the script with everyone. He's changed a few of the stories, but the themes are the same.
Well, wait, so then we've got him on copyright violation, right? He'll suffer an even worse fate than crucifixion.
Only if they pass SOPA.
Well, can't we turn him over to the MPAA now? I mean, those lawyers are pure evil.
Yeah, so long as you register the script with the Copyright Office.
I didn't do that, but you know what? I did that thing that you told me about where I mail a copy to myself.
Perfect, that'll work.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because I have had some changes that I made.
You opened the envelope?
Well, yeah, to make the changes. Like, for instance, this virgin birth thing. It is kind of silly, right? I mean, we don't have any scriptural backing for it. Lucy hates it.
Yeah, he's already ruined that one.
What does that mean?
Take a look at this.
What is this?
It's a list of all the people that were born of a virgin.
Buddha, Krishna, Plato, Caesar? Are you freaking kidding me? Caesar? Everybody knows that Caesar's mom had more men than Ted Haggard.
And it doesn't end there, sir. He's using all of your themes. Death and resurrection, eating of the flesh, drinking of the blood, water into wine, the donkey thing.
The donkey thing? My donkey thing? Are you freaking kidding? Who does that? What kind of person would steal another guy's donkey ideas?
I know.
Well, that is it. This kid has crossed a line from which there is no return. I don't know if it's a point of no return or a line in the sand, but whatever it is, he has crossed it. I am done with this kid. I am bringing out the big guns, Larry. Call Lucy. I mean, get her over here. She'll know what to do, right?
Sir, Lucy is with Jesus.
Well. If it isn't Beauty and the Beast, you do realize that you're your own Antichrist now, right?
Oh, don't be mad at him. This was all my idea.
I should have known something this diabolical had to come from a woman.
Oh, don't be sexist.
Are you in any way familiar with my work?
Look, he came to me upset. He said there was no theological necessity for his crucifixion, but that you wanted to do it anyway.
For dramatic effect? Yeah, so what?
You want to have the boy crucified and murdered just for dramatic effect?
No, please, that's sick. Not just for dramatic effect. Do you have any idea how many chocolate bunnies this thing is going to sell? It's the economy, stupid. and by stupid, I mean that as part of a phrase, because that really is the phrase. You can't say it without saying stupid. You got to add on stupid at the end. I know you're not stupid. I would never do that.
Elle, you can do all of that, but you don't have to crucify Jesus. You don't really even have to have him go down.
How am I going to sell the story if he doesn't go down and get crucified? Myth. Oh, this should be good. Let's hear this.
Yes, sir. We've been all over the ancient world, and you wouldn't believe the power that myth has. It permeates and informs their entire world.
So they're myth-informed. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Elle, we have planted themes of death and resurrection throughout the ancient world.
It's even part of their seasonal festivals now.
And this helps me how?
Well, they'll just pick up the ball and run with it.
Right, they'll create the stories on their own.
Well, we'll have to make a few changes, of course.
Changes. I knew there was a catch. Like what?
Well, for starters, we should probably change the date to a time when Nazareth actually existed. I mean, that is, of course, if you still want the character to be known as Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah, kind of fond of that.
Okay, and then we should probably drop the whole census thing because the Romans didn't really do that.
Herod didn't kill a bunch of innocent kids either. That's something that they took from the Hebrew Bible.
Right. We just need to leave out a lot of the historical references that don't work, but you can do that, right?
They don't need to put in some historical references to let the people think that these things actually happened.
I guess I could put Josephus on it.
We tried that, and he wouldn't do it, because apparently he still has some integrity.
Yeah. We just have to have someone make it look like Josephus referenced Jesus historically, after the fact.
Okay, let's say I'm a little bit interested in this, okay? How do we get these guys to drop this once they've grown out of it? I mean, I don't want to be doing this forever, okay? I'd like to retire at some point, maybe play a little golf again.
Sure, people drop these kind of mythologies all the time. Look at the Egyptians,
The Greeks,
the Romans.
the Persians.
Yeah, they dropped it and they moved on.
Plus, once they discover science, this mythology will just hold them back. These people are not idiots.
Oh boy.
What is it?
Gingrich won South Carolina.
Gingrich?
You know what? I'm sorry, that was terribly rude. Go on, what were you saying?
But
But they're
stupid.
not idiots.
So, anyways, that was David's idea. In that last one, which is getting pretty good. You kind of wonder where they're going to go next because I don't know if they're running in knowledge, but oh, they were cordless. There we go. All right, anyway, so I had some material I was going to present too about where April Fool's Day comes from, but it appears that many of the explanations for April Fool's Day are themselves April Fools or pranks. In fact, one was definitely made up like in 1983 by some historian, professor of history. The standard story is that when the calendar changed, they were beginning the new year in April and January instead of April, and some people continued to celebrate in April, but we know that April Fool's was actually going on a long time before that. It is probably linked to a Roman holiday that was happening in the spring, at the time of the spring equinox, called Hilaria. Yeah, that's where the word hilarious comes from. It means cheerful. So anyways, not too much more to be said about that. So let me just skip ahead here. Well, first of all, religion is a fertile field for jokes and humor. There's a lot more stuff besides that on YouTube. I mean, once you've exhausted yourself in the effort to take theology and the supernatural seriously, I mean, what else can you do but ridicule it? If it weren't so easy to do, believers probably wouldn't get so upset by it being done. Of course, it's not all the believers that we're talking about. I mean, we should not lump together believers when it comes to weird stuff they do, and it shouldn't be lumped together in terms of when we think who could be offended to, like this guy in the Washington Post. There are lots of believers that think that stuff is funny. So it's not all believers, just the ones who take it all so seriously, who are so utterly determined not to question anything, and who are so unable to forgive others, who just can't take it seriously and can't help but question, in the spirit in which Thomas Jefferson observed that if there be a God, he must more approve of the homage of reason than of blindfolded fear. And isn't that what humor is? I mean, it's looking at things that maybe are somewhat familiar, that quote unquote everybody knows, but looking at it in a new and a fresh light that's striking enough to make us laugh. So we all know it's claimed that pain and suffering in a world alleged to have been created by an all-powerful, all-knowing, and perfectly good deity, somehow justified as contributing to a greater good. Believers compare it to loving parents who would take their kids to the pediatrician and subject their children to painful medical procedures without which the children would die or be seriously injured. Makes sense? Somewhat. So why not the suffering of believers when they see their beliefs, not them, just their beliefs, okay, criticized and ridiculed? Especially when those who find fault with talking snakes and such are simply engaging in the homage of reason. That's what we're doing, the homage of reason. And you will never see signs here saying too many Christians, not enough lions. I mean, that's I don't think any of us have feelings like that here. Point of this too is you need to pick up a new word so once in a while. Theodicy. How many know that word? That's the theories that they have for why evil exists and how we live in the best of all possible worlds, and God couldn't have made it any better. So I know most of you read the Bible, and this is how many of us became unbelievers. I've always wondered about many parts of the Bible, but especially, I just had to, this has been eating at me, so I realized April 1st, the church service. that part of the Bible where the Lord God said, "It's not good that man should be alone. I will make him and help meet for him." And out of the ground the Lord formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. But for Adam there was not an help meet for him. That is so sad, you know. Now think of that. You're the first, the only human being on the planet. A man, okay. But that only makes it worse because men seem to have these needs that exceed that of women. And then your Creator brings you a lobster and wants you to play house with it. Don't like a lobster, how about a sea anemone? How about a squid? Oh, just think of what you can do with a squid, Adam. No? Well, there are lots of vertebrates too. How about a badger? Or sheep? How about sheep? Oh, well, if you're going to wind up in Texas, how about an armadillo? Or a longhorn? Those are the state animals of Texas, by the way. You need to know that. So nothing is suitable, and God reluctantly has to yank out one of Adam's ribs and make a woman out of it. And I understand that some who worship the Bible believe that women have one less rib than men. How many of you heard that? It is true. But we shouldn't make fun of that belief. I mean, it's only a contradiction of anatomy. But now do you see the implications of all this? I mean, God fixed up Adam with a woman who's basically his clone. I guess God just threw away the Y chromosome and duplicated the X chromosome to make a woman. But the original plan was that God expected Adam to find a walrus or some other species of suitable helpmeet. Leviticus would have been written really differently, wouldn't it, if Adam would have just been happy with a sheep or something else? Original sin would never have happened in that case because, as so many theologians agreed, Eve was the one who first ate the forbidden fruit. Yeah, it's all her fault. Speaking of which, why didn't God tip off Adam and Eve about the snake? Why didn't he say, "Don't believe anything that snake tells you. He's a liar. He's a trickster. He's going to try to get you in trouble"? Oh no. God waits until after the damage is done. Only then does God, I don't know if I have a quote here, but it's in the Bible, put enmity between the snake and the humans so that the humans shall bruise the snake's head and the snake shall bruise his heel. And they do more than bruising here in Texas, especially if you find a nice rattlesnake. So men are then, the punishment, men are cursed to have to work for a living. Darn it. All the rest of the time I have to spend. And women are cursed with having to have pain in childbirth. Well, not since epidurals, actually. But. And the snake, now the snake who was the cause of everything, he gets, okay, remember what the snake gets cursed with? He has to go upon his belly. What kind of punishment is that for a snake? Can you just imagine the snake's horror at being so cursed? Oh, not that, God. Oh, please, not that. That's going to be such a hardship. Oh, ouch, it hurts. Having to crawl on my belly. You taught me such a lesson. And then other things happen after they get out of it. After they're thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Events. Right? The mark of Cain. Now, that never really made sense to me. First of all, there's nothing in the Bible about what it actually is. But if you don't have any distinguishing marks and you're afraid that people are going to kill you for committing a crime, why would you want to have a special mark that showed that you're the guy that did it? Doesn't that mean that everyone will then know that you're Cain and will definitely kill you? Or, was this some kind of magic maybe? Maybe they should have a follow-up Indiana Jones movie. Just think, instead of the Ark of the Covenant, they could find what the mark of Cain was, this little magic symbol, put it on all your soldiers and make them bulletproof, flame-proof. If that's how the mark of Cain works, I'm not sure. So, who were all these other people that might kill him anyway? The subsequent offspring of Adam and Eve who hadn't even been born yet? All right, all those other people, like Cain's wife. Here's a little historical pearl. Need to grow an extra arm here so I can handle everything. This guy on the left here, Isaac La Pereire. Prior to the Enlightenment, he and other people were writing up, and he was famous for writing up that there were people around before Adam. And actually, this was being debated for centuries. The pre-Adamite theory, of course, clearly messes up the whole idea of original sin. You have to have, like it shows on the left here, on the right rather, everybody descended from Adam and Eve in order for the original sin to work. And it's saying that there were people around before Adam and Eve. That was one of the heresies for which Giordano Bruno was burnt to death and murdered by the Vatican. But less than 60 years later, here's Isaac La Pereire writing a book about it. And this time, Pereire, who's a Catholic theologian. He recanted, and so they only burned his book instead of him. But by the 18th and 19th centuries, the idea had been embraced, this idea of pre-Adamites, because that's what they needed to have theories of racial, where the races came from without contradicting the Bible. So, sorry about that, it's not very funny. But the flood story is another gold mine of humor. Kind of looks familiar here with all the animals, doesn't it? I was talking with a friend about this who said to me, boy, God is such a drama queen. He's unhappy about all the sinning going on, but how bad could it have been, really? I mean, the Bible has it. How bad could it have been? The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, of all which they chose. When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, they became mighty men of old, men of renown. We don't have that going on now, so wasn't it better then? Nothing about women of renown, obviously, but wouldn't things have been better? Even with the wickedness of man being great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart, after all, there are all those offsprings of the Son of God running around, men of renown. Our species hadn't even come up with any weapons of mass destruction yet. There were no traffic jams, no internet spam. No, none of those Nigerian 419 scams. And surely no one could have in their very wildest dreams ever thought about the Transportation Security Authority or insurance companies. But here's God, who hadn't even yet screwed everything up worse by talking to Moses and Jesus or Muhammad, and not to mention Joe Smith, and he decides he's got to drown the whole world. Really. And now what did the animals do to deserve your extermination? How well did God decide, how did he decide, which two animals? Well, we say two of every breed, but, animals aren't interchangeable either, right? We all have dogs and cats, they're individuals. 7 pairs of each clean animal, even though God hadn't yet told anyone about the clean and the unclean animals. Maybe those were the animals that God was really rooting for when he had that beauty contest with Adam, remember? Find the help me. It's like a bad movie, where something has to happen to cause something else, even though there are a zillion other ways to make the same result that would make so much more sense. But no, there needs to be this car chase or some scene of massive bloody carnage or something. And so with the flood story, a bunch of bad people could have just died in their sleep or gone missing or something. But instead, everybody has to die in this massive flood. Oh well. Even kangaroos and penguins and some really cute koalas and pandas would not improve the Bible, unfortunately. As it is, and this is the really miraculous thing about the Bible, if it is to be believed as a divine message, there is nothing in the Bible that was not known or would not have been known by a bunch of Bronze Age sheep herders. Not that those people, they're our ancestors too. It's not that they were stupid or didn't have good ideas, but they didn't know what we know. They didn't even know that the things we have today, including far from perfect political institutions that nevertheless surpassed anything they had back then, they didn't even know that such things are possible. Okay, so on to the Quran. Anybody looking around for people wearing a turban? Actually, there is this hadith of Muhammad that if a fly falls in your drink, you gotta not have known this, because I didn't. If a fly falls in your drink, you have to dip it in real good, because Muhammad says that one of the fly's wings has a disease and the other has a cure for the disease. And believe it or not, there are devout Muslims and clerics who claim that this has been proved scientifically, and that even now there are pharmaceutical companies raising, breeding flies in order to harvest that one wing that has a cure for all the diseases and contains the most powerful antibiotics in existence. I am not blanking you. Don't really look it up. Funny. But it's also scary that there are people who insist on believing this. Okay, that BBC thing was a nice prank. Pranks are an art form. Why aren't they recognized as an art form? Why do humanities departments in colleges all over the country should be having courses on pranks? Oh, I guess there is that whole thing. They don't want to encourage it. Well, there are several examples, not counting, let me give you some more examples. We already had the Bible and Islam. Oh, this is cool. In 1957, the BBC broadcast a 2.5-minute piece on the Swiss spaghetti harvest, showing spaghetti growing in trees, and with the narrator saying, spaghetti cultivation here in Switzerland is not, of course, carried out on anything like the tremendous scale of the Italian industry. Many of you, I'm sure, will have seen the pictures of the vast spaghetti plantations in the Po Valley. Hundreds of people phoned in after the broadcast trying to find out where they could get their own spaghetti tree. In 1976, British astronomer Patrick Moore in a BBC interview. So BBC, well, of course, they're further along also on the road to people getting away from believing in all these theological doctrines. But he related on that morning at precisely 9:47 a.m., the planet Pluto would pass behind Jupiter, causing the Earth's gravity to weaken slightly, such that if someone were to jump at that moment, they would feel a strange floating sensation. Anything come of that, do you think? Well, yeah. Shortly after the broadcast, the BBC began to receive hundreds of calls from people saying that they had felt this. One woman said that she and 11 friends had floated up out of their chairs around the room. In 1989, an extraterrestrial spacecraft landed near London as thousands of people looked on. Policemen ran away when a hatch opened and a small silver-suited figure popped out, a midget who'd been paid to play the role. The craft was a specially designed hot air balloon that British multi-billionaire Richard Branson, who started the Virgin Empire, had built. Because of weather conditions, the balloon had come down though on March 31st, so darn it, rather than April 1st. One of the policemen later said, quote, "I have never been so scared in 20 years of being a policeman." Oh, in 1992, National Public Radio, they can do something right. They reported that Richard Nixon had announced his candidacy for president for that year. Comedian Rich Little, as Nixon, remember this is radio, was provided the voice who said the slogan was going to be, "I didn't do anything wrong, and I won't do it again." The Talk of the Nation show was flooded with calls expressing outrage until it was revealed later in the broadcast that, in fact, it was a hoax. Ooh, in 1995, the April issue of Discover magazine reported the finding of a new species of animal in the Antarctic that, thanks to bony plates on its head that were also very well supplied with blood vessels that made it very hot, that this animal could bore quickly through ice in the Antarctic, allowing them to feed on unsuspecting penguins. It just suddenly the ground underneath you would become slushy and you'd fall in and all these little animals would eat you up. The disappearance of a fictional Philippe Poisson explorer in 1837 was attributed to an attack by these hot-headed naked ice borers. And the biologist who discovered the new species was April Pazzo. April Fool in Italian. And the guy who disappeared to Philippe Poisson. Poisson is a French word for fish, and in France they call April Fools April Fish. In 1996, the Taco Bell company took out full-page ads in major American newspapers stating that, in an effort to help the national debt, Taco Bell is pleased to announce that we have agreed to purchase the Liberty Bell, one of our country's most historic treasures. It will now be called the Taco Liberty Bell. It will still be accessible to the American public for viewing. While some may find this controversial, we hope our move will prompt other corporations to take similar action to do their part to reduce the country's debt. And boy, don't we need that even more today.
Their logo now included the...
Yes, now it has a little crack in the Taco Bell. By the way, the White House press secretary at the time responded by, when being asked about this, responded by saying, "Oh, we'll be doing a series of these. Ford Motor Company is joining today in an effort to refurbish the Lincoln Memorial. It will be the Ford Lincoln Mercury Memorial." In 1998, physicist Mark Boslow wrote a satirical article in the New Mexicans for Science and Reason newsletter. So this would be a correspondent to our North Texas Skeptics, a little group in, just a dinky little group in New Mexico. But he wrote this article saying that the Alabama legislature, well, that shouldn't have happened.
April Fool.
April Fool, yeah, you're right. Well, unfortunately, the only way to get here is to do the slideshow thing again and then advance. Love all those animals. It was great when an artist, the only thing they could draw was stuff out of the Bible, pretty much. Where were we anyway? There you go. Okay, so this guy wrote an article saying that the Alabama legislature had passed a law saying that from now on, the value of pi was going to be fixed at 3, make it easier for their students, and because that, besides, that's what it said in the Bible. This report spread worldwide. I remember hearing it at the time and thought it was real. The report spread worldwide, reported as fact, and led to an avalanche of angry responses directed at the Alabama legislature before being discovered to be a hoax. But isn't that just the sort of thing you would expect from Alabama? Also in 1998, Burger King ran a full-page ad in USA Today promoting a left-handed burger, left-handed Whopper. Okay? They said that in this particular Whopper, quote, all condiments are rotated 180 degrees, thereby redistributing the weight of the sandwich so that the bulk of the condiments will skew to the left, thereby reducing the amount of lettuce and other toppings from spilling out on the right side of the burger for left-handed Americans. There's lots more. There's actually a museum of hoaxes that's out there. Lots of stuff we could present next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. Lots of funny stuff that people have thought up. So at any rate, please think about it. I don't know how we're doing on time, because we don't have a big thing in here. We're just about 11:30, so we're doing good. I want to remind you before you go, there's a little begging for you for contributions. First of all, you've already done the thing that matters the most to us, and that is showing up. Participating, fellowship with your fellow freethinkers, and letting us know what you think, what we did good, what we didn't do so good, and what we can do next time. And as I said, next time we're going to talk about this very contentious thing. Well, I think we still have something funny left over that I didn't have space for today, so if you like a laugh, come next time too. But remember that Freethought is not free. On the other hand, I'm not paid anything. John Gauthier there, who's been videoing the service, not paid anything. Sir, Rusty, none of us made any money on this stuff. It's just a labor of love, and we are asking you to help us pay the bills, like for the hotel room and the things that we have to spend to keep the church going. There are lots of reasons for us, for you to give us your money, mainly because we're doing together what none of us can do on our own. So help us promote your values and demonstrate your commitment. Be the future that you wish to see. If you can't afford to go to Washington, D.C. to the Reason Rally, come here each month, first Sunday. We have another mic here if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns. I'm going to put on another video in the meantime if you don't. By the way, on the flying penguins, there's a longer clip on YouTube showing how they did it, how they created that.
You know, I'd be interested to look this up, but if I had to guess, I'd say that the ancestors of the penguins at some point,
Just maybe.
that they probably could fly.
Undoubtedly.
There is no Islam versus Christianity. Which is right? Islam. Christianity. Islam! There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Stephen. Steve, this debate is about religion. Let's discuss it rationally. Now, think about it. If you were God, would you manifest your divine glory to a shepherd in a cave in Saudi Arabia in the 7th century? Or as the son of a carpenter in a manger in Judea in the year 0? Come on, use your mind. Stephen, what part of there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet don't you understand? Look, let's assume for the sake of argument that your God is the one true God. That would mean Allah is not the one true God, which we know he is. Don't you see, your logic eats itself. First off, it's not my logic, Steve, it's God's logic, as written in the Bible, every word of which is true. And we know every word is true because the Bible says that the Bible is true. And if you remember from earlier in this sentence, every word of the Bible is true. Now, are you following me here, or are you some kind of mindless zealot?
You know, there is one way of settling this. Crusade. All right, there are two ways of settling this. The one that I was thinking of, a pray-off. You pray to your God, and I will pray to mine, and we will see which one of us gets smited.
Great, let's do it.
Is your God ready?
My God was born ready. Or, not so much born as begotten, not made, one being with the Father. Ready.
All right. On your mark. Get set. Pray. No, I'm done too. And I appear to be unsmoted.
Yeah, for now, but let me tell you, when you die and go to hell, you're gonna wish you weren't dead.
Interesting. Now, am I going to be doing that after I go to paradise to join my bevy of spotless virgins for all eternity? You know, because I just want to give them a heads up where I'm going for eternity.
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm just starting to think that this religion thing, we're not going to settle in 3 minutes. So if you can just wrap it up and find some common ground, that would be great. Sorry.
Maybe the Jew's right.
Yeah, maybe so, you know. Which is funny, because I normally don't care for Jews.
We don't either.
Really?
We seem to find them kind of scheming.
We're very big on that too.
Really?
Yes!
We're not so different after all. I'm Steve Carell.
I'm Stephen Colbert, and this has been Even Steven.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Where is it? I don't know where I'm looking. Hey, thank you both. We'll be right back.
The real player pin played WMD?
What?
The real player played WMD.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, there we are.
I thought you said WMD.
Morality is subjective. The perception of morality depends greatly upon the context of the culture and time period. As such, it can be uniquely defined and subject to change. No, it's objective. Morality comes from God, and God doesn't change. A sin is a sin, no matter when or where. What's wrong today was wrong yesterday, and what's wrong here is wrong everywhere. Did any of your friends or family do any work today? Yeah. Today's a Sabbath. They're supposed to be put to death if they worked. And according to the Bible, you should condone the killing of adulterers, witches, disobedient children. Oh my God, what's that? What? Huh. I guess it was nothing. Anyway, that's the Old Testament. There's a new covenant in Jesus Christ. Those old laws were made within the context of a very different culture and time period. Well, wait, hey, you just stole my word. I don't appreciate these accusations. Why the hell would I? Look out! Yeah, right, like I'm going to focus.
Okay, well, we burned up our hour. Let's go and tell some jokes at the Golden Corral. Anybody else have comments to make? Did a pretty good job, huh? I mean, I didn't see any asking people to be, it's not like we called down some bear out of the forest to come and tear up the roast chickens or anything like that. We just would, as one of the videos I did have time to show, we just think it's such a tragedy to see the beautiful minds, the wonderful brains of so many people ruined and vandalized by silly beliefs and really things that turn into hateful beliefs like that Fred Phelps guy with the God hates bags and all that sort of nonsense. We've got to be better than that. It's the 21st century, right? So let's show them how it's done. Yeah.
Colbert made somewhat of an error, or maybe he insinuated an error. That is, that there was no year zero, as you may have figured out. The calendar was dated 325 CE by the ecumenical council, the first ecumenical council called by Constantine. And they dated the calendar and they came up with the year 1, not the year 0. And the reason for that is because the zero was not created until 730 CE. So the people in 325 didn't know about a zero and the way of figuring that out. So by him mentioning a zero, it's really not too accurate. Of course, there's a lot of other inaccuracies too.
What about this business with April Fools, because they used to celebrate the first of the year, beginning of the year on April 1st? Is that, as far as you know, true?
I don't know.
Merlin's like a calendar expert.
March was the first month of the year until Caesar came along. If you remember, Julius Caesar was appointed emperor forever in 54 BCE, and he was killed in February of 44, March rather, of 44 BCE. And he came up with the correct year. Until then, they only had 10 months of 40 days each, and it didn't sort of work out too well. The calendar was reeling, as it were, and lapping itself. And he went and visited Cleopatra, you may have heard of her, from Egypt, and found out they had a fairly good calendar in Egypt. They've been using it for about 2,000 years. Believe it or not, their calendar was the Nile River that flooded in the spring. And in fact, the Egyptians used a stick near one of the monuments that they built to determine when the Nile River floods, and that was the first day of the year. And the year wound up being around 362, 363 days long. And over a period of 2,000 years, they figured it was 364 and a quarter. And Caesar was impressed that they had such an accurate calendar, and that the Roman calendar, and the one that the Western European nations were using, was so inaccurate. So he went back to Rome in 45 BCE after giving birth, or Cleopatra gave birth to his child, his son. And he decided to change the calendar, and the Romans were not too tickled pink about all that. He decided that 45 BCE would have 454 days, 2 Easters. And the people were up in arms, not only for that, but for the fact that he was not controlling immigration, and he was spending all the money on the treasury. Does that sound familiar? And they decided that they would have to get rid of this guy. He wanted to bring his son over and have his son become his heir to the throne. And it was a semi-republic type of government that they had, and people were unhappy. So as you probably remember, the Ides of March came along. Beware of the Ides of March. Well, there's only 4 months in the year that have Ides on the 15th. The other months have Ides on the 13th. And there's Kalends and pre-Kalends, and that's a whole new story. Take me about an hour and a half to figure that out. Anyhow, there is no zero when they talked about it there. That was a little bit of an error.
Also, don't we know the exact day that the Earth was created? Was it like September? What did Bishop Usher figure out?
August sometime.
September something, or
I thought it was
August?
August.
Anyways, see, it blows me away that, yeah, but they don't celebrate that day. I mean, if they really took it all so seriously, why would they celebrate? Oh, wait a minute, yeah, 9 in the morning. Now, wait a second, don't let that go outside this room. We don't want to give them any ideas.
Just a little aside, have you all heard that the end of the world is going to come on the 23rd of December this year? Well, in actual fact, maybe you know that the Mayan unit, the end of the first unit is the 23rd of December. And that unit was 1,930 years long. And that means that the calendar will be exactly perfect again. And for all the imperfections, 1,930 years after the 23rd of December this year, it'll be correct again. And so this is only the end of their first unit. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's just, they do things a little bit different than us. They have 18 months of 20 days each with 4 days of celebration, and a little story there too.
So it's just like your odometer turning to all zeros, it doesn't actually destroy the car. By the way, of course, I think, is it next weekend that's Easter? And it's funny, they didn't even change the name of the holiday. Easter is the name of the pagan goddess, that's the goddess of spring, and that's a big Christian holiday. Can't figure it out. Anyways, let's all get together over at the Golden Corral. Does anyone need to know how to get there? If they do, okay, then follow one of us that's going, but it's over in the Grapevine Mills Mall. You basically get on 114, get on 121 going north, and you get off at, is it Stars and Stripes or International or something? Anyways, you get off, you go over the freeway, and then head back a little ways east, a little ways south. Grapevine Mills Parkway, and then you get on like Stars and Stripes or something. There's some sort of, but if you,
Turn left for that.
yeah, but follow us then. Michelle, do you know how to get there?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, let's get over there then. Terry, anything else?
I'm gonna stay a few minutes after and help you put stuff away, and anybody can follow me over.
Great, yeah. Need the help, just disassembling things, putting them away. Thanks all. See you next month, May 6th. Should be a lot of fun.